Welcome back, everybody, to the question of the week. Our question this week actually is coming from me, and we have a gentleman here, Drew. He's a friend and customer of ours. Drew works in the aerospace industry, but is a car guy. He's a Subaru guy. Drew, I think it's safe to say you have an engineering background.
Yep, I'm a degreed mechanical engineer with a few years of experience.
Just a few.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll go back to the last century.
Okay. And you've got a Subaru. You've built Subaru engines, so you're familiar with the engineering side of things and Subaru side of things, and bringing those all together.
Right.
So here's the question that we had early on, which was, it was something as simple as a question about assembly lube. Can you use ARP assembly lube on a factory head stud? And it turns out this is not as simple of a question as it might seem. And we wanted to kind of maybe explain why it's a complicated question, and then talk a little bit about what is going on when you're torquing down head studs, when you're trying to actually get a bolt to stretch to bring things up to torque like that.
Well, it turns out bolt torque is really nuanced, and changing the lube can have a significant impact on the preload, the clamping force the bolt is going to apply to the interface.
In the case where you have a bolt that has a set torque, what is going on? Like, why is there a torque value? What happens when you get to that torque value with a fastener?
Right. So what you're really doing is you're actually stretching the bolt just a little bit, and so it has stored energy in it, and it can keep your joint clamped together.
Okay.
And with a head stud in particular, you're holding the head down, and the bolt is going to get a little additional preload. I'll say preload every combustion cycle. So it's going to push on the bolt, and ideally it never exceeds that preload. Otherwise, your head gas is going to leak.
Lifting the heads.
Lifting the heads, right.
So, and what you're saying there is you're running the engine is coming up to temperature, so things are going to expand, so that's going to be a little bit of a preload on the bolt. And then every time there's a combustion event, there's going to be a little bit of extra preload because of the combustion event. The thing that's pushing the piston down is also pushing against the cylinder head, so there's going to be that little extra bit of tension on the fastener. Right,
and that extra tension should never exceed the preload, that initial torque you put in the bolt to create that clamp force.
Okay, so how does assembly lube factor into getting the bolt to this right amount of tension?
Right. So there's a lot of friction in a bolt when you're putting it together. You have all the threads rubbing on each other, and the head of the bolt pushing on or rubbing against the washer. So the assembly lube decreases that friction and allows you to get up to an appropriate clamping load without twisting the head off the bolt.
Different assembly lubes behave differently.
Yeah, right. Coefficient of friction of the lubes, stuff like the ARP lube here is specially formulated, has a certain C, a coefficient of friction, that is going to allow you to repeatedly torque up a head stud to the same preload.
Okay. And let's talk about, we have different fastener styles too. So like this is a factory Subaru head stud that is basically a fastener that has the head of the nut incorporated into the fastener itself and then a washer built in underneath it. Whereas pretty much all of the aftermarket ones, it is basically a stud with a nut on top.
Right.
So just that difference alone, how much does that change the procedure?
Well, the Subaru studs are actually torque to yield, right?
Right.
So one of the big differences here is with the bolt like this, you have a lot of twist up in the bolt, right? You have a long length, and you're turning the whole thing, and the preload is going into the thread. So you're going to get some wind up. With a nut, you have much less of that.
So because the nut is incorporated into the bolt, once it's down into the threads, there's going to be a point where the bottom is not really turning as much, and the top is doing like that last little bit of turning. The bolt is twisting,
right?
Because they're one piece, they're connected. Whereas when you have the nut can turn freely on the stud,
right?
So that's a big difference. The Subaru procedure for these factory fasteners is complicated because it's like go up to this torque, then back it off this many degrees, then go this many degrees forward after you loosen it, and a couple back and forths. Is that by and large because of the style of the fastener where you have the head on the shaft?
That could be part of it. The other thing too is in every threaded hole, the threads aren't perfect. So you're kind of running everything together a little bit to smooth everything out. So all the turn ahead gets transferred into clamping force.
Okay.
And the turn of head, right, the number of degrees you're going to turn it, that's a more precise way to preload a bolt than doing a torque wrench
Just
method.
with the torque. Okay. I think the factory Subaru assembly lube that is designed around is motor oil.
Right.
And which is, I mean, for a long time that was the standard.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like we were talking about with this assembly lube, the assembly lube has a different coefficient of friction. It's more slippery.
Right.
So you're getting a different value there.
Right. Yes.
So it turns out the torque procedure, when you have it comes down to the fastener itself and the lubricant. So the steps that you have, it's dependent on both of those two things together. So that's where, like, using an ARP assembly lube on a factory stud, because you don't have a guide for how to use that lube with that stud, then that's where you're really kind of in kind of a no man's land, if you will, there.
Yeah, I'd say don't do it.
Don't do it, yeah.
The OEM puts in a lot of time and effort to figure out how to repeatedly install that bolt and make it work.
So let me ask you one other question just about metallurgy.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the style of the bolt, we've talked about the assembly lube, but then you have a lot of different aftermarket headstuds that are made of different materials, and sometimes those different materials have different torque procedures.
Right.
So how does the type of metal that the stud itself is made out of affect what the procedure you'd use to torque it down?
Well, the parent metal that the stud is made from has a direct impact on the strength of that stud, and then whether there's a heat treat step or what have you. So the aftermarket studs are made from a stronger material, and in general, you torque them up higher than you would the factory studs. Right. And the idea there's just more clamping, so you can run more boost. Yeah.
When you have a stud that's a different material and it has a higher torque load, is that because the metal is stronger and it can handle the higher torque, or basically the higher pretension?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure it would probably depend on the metal, but how would heat or like those combustion events affect different materials? Do different materials have more ability to kind of be like springy?
Right.
And some are more rigid? Right.
So that's the modulus of the material, how stiff it is.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that you always stretch the bolt just a little bit when you torque it up. So the stronger materials are generally a little more brittle, so you stretch them a little bit less. They have a higher clamping force, and this is where it becomes really nuanced on how you're holding your joint together. Sometimes a material with a little more spring is actually a little better.
Okay, a little bit more give. Give is too much.
Give is too much, right?
Okay.
It just has more stored energy to resist any forces that are pushing against it.
What would be the advantages of that kind of material?
Well, it's tougher, right? Okay. So with that little bit of I'll say spring, you can stretch the material a little bit more stored energy in the stud itself, and it can resist. I will say gapping, right?
Okay.
It can stretch a little bit more, and stretch is the wrong word, flex a little bit more. Right. And be able to come back to home and still hold.
Still hold the tension, still hold the preload. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's so important to follow the directions of the manufacturer of the fastener, because they've done all of this testing to come up with the procedure so that you get the right result.
Right. Absolutely. The procedure and the lube they call out. Those are two very important things.
As far as the lube goes, and sometimes some manufacturers are more specific than others as far as where to put the lubricant and how much to use. Is there a general rule of thumb if a manufacturer's directions are somewhat vague as far as, like, do you apply always to the threads, just like a minimal amount, something along those lines?
Yeah, so always to the threads. And then whether you're going to apply lube to the washer, one side or both sides, that should be explicitly called out. If it's not, then the joint is insensitive enough that it's not going to matter. That would be my take. What
difference would applying the lubricant to the top and bottom of the washer make? like, does it really make that much of a difference if there's lube on the bottom of the washer and the top versus just the top?
Yeah, it does make a difference.
Okay.
If you put lube on both sides, you're creating an additional slip interface.
Okay.
So if there's just lube between the head of the bolt and the washer, the coefficient of friction there is going to be lower than between the washer and the head. So you're only going to get slip between the head of the bolt and the washer. When you put lube between the washer and the head, then you can get slip between both interfaces,
Okay.
and the overall coefficient of friction in the joint will go down a little bit. And when that happens, you can end up with more preload in the joint than you expected.
What could some possible issues come from that if you over torque the bolt?
Right. Well, first thing is, right, you strip the threads out of your block.
Sure.
You could twist the head off the bolt, break the bolt. Those are the two big ones.
I've heard people talk about, and there seems to be a school of thought of, like, whatever the manufacturer's torque spec is, going a little bit above that torque spec. Is with something like this where it's precise, but it's probably not the degree of precision that you are used to working in. Is it something where if you're maybe say 5 foot-pounds of torque over the limit, that it's going to make that much of a difference, or is it hard to say?
It is hard to say. Typically with a torque wrench, you're seeing a 25 or 30% uncertainty in how much actual torque you're putting into the joint, just to do all the friction and everything. So don't go over the maximum torque,
right?
Because you could be 30% over what you're expecting, and that extra 5 foot-pounds or what have you could lead to something catastrophic.
It's actually 30% more than that 5 extra foot-pounds.
Right, it could be, right? So don't exceed the maximum torque.
Okay. And since we've got you here, and you're the right person for this question, what about bolts like rod bolts, where they're actually, some of them have torque specs, but some of them have a stretch specification. So you actually are supposed to tighten them to the point where you get a certain measured amount of stretch of the bolt.
Right.
What's going on there? Is that significantly different from like attaching a cylinder head?
Yeah, it is. Rod bolts are even more critical than cylinder head bolts, and so measuring that stretch, you know exactly how much preload is in that joint, and so that allows you to run your preload up as high as you can and still have a factor of safety against actually stripping something out or breaking a bolt.
Because you're measuring basically the stretch in the bolt itself,
yes,
versus any kind of torque on just the head of the bolt.
Right. This is all about stretch.
Okay.
And so when you're just torquing the head of a bolt, you're trying to predict how much stretch is going to be in that bolt. By measuring it, you know exactly how much you have.
Okay. So it seems like the general rule of thumb is always use the specified lubricant and torque procedure from the manufacturer, because there's a reason for it.
Right.
Yeah, and man, are there any other factors to consider if you're doing an assembly like this, where you have a very specific set of steps and materials to use?
Yeah. Make sure everything's clean, right? You want to make sure there's no debris on your threads. Flush out the holes in your block. Make sure everything's clean, right? Any little amount of debris in the threads is going to alter your preload.
Because you're adding friction.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest thing. And then follow the directions.
So Subarus have a set of directions and they follow them, but there's one other thing that I've seen talked about in other models of car, which is, you assemble the engine, you torque everything down, but a lot of other cars say to then come back and check the torque after like a heat cycle, or like say if it's a track car, run it at a track for one day, then come back and check the torque. With these fasteners, like where would that apply, and what would be going on there if the directions are to come back and check the torque after the engine has been run for a small amount of time?
Right. Obviously, that's quite difficult on a Subaru engine, but the thought there is, everything settles in just a little bit, finds its happy spot, and because you have one thread that's slightly different than the next, that may slightly yield and release a little bit of preload. So then you can come back, torque everything down to where it's supposed to be, so that way you're holding your cylinder heads down.
If you have a fastener like this that you put through like say a small number of heat cycles, and then you come back and check it. When you reset the torque after those heat cycles, does that, because it's settled down, is that going to be a more accurate long-term torque procedure, or is it something where if it has changed, would it potentially continue to change after multiple heat cycles?
Typically, you just have that first initial change where everything settles in. If you have something that continues to change over time, you have a problem.
Okay.
Threads are pulling, a bolt is failing, something's wrong, and you need to investigate it.
And generally, especially if you're using new materials, clean surfaces, that shouldn't happen, because obviously the companies that make these parts are testing them. They should be kind of making sure that they're going to stand up in that environment. All right, so Drew, another question for you about reusing fasteners. Like a lot of times, the aftermarket fasteners that have the nut on top, they will have, I want to say like the Air P2000s, I remember asking them at one point, and they said it is good for up to 5 torque cycles.
Okay.
So like if you're going to hone a block, you're supposed to use the head gaskets and the fasteners that you're going to use on final assembly. So you would use the fasteners, torque everything down, like line bore, hone the block, what have you, remove it, and then do a second assembly with that same fastener. And they say that that's okay. But the factory bolts are torqued to yield.
Right.
Would you ever reuse that bolt, for instance?
I would not. Right. You've yielded the bolt. You've stretched it plastically, just stretched it to form the bolt just a little bit when you torque to yield, and that's what it's meant to do. Using it a second time, right? Using it a second time, you with that same installation procedure, you would stretch it again, and you're in danger of failing that bolt.
So any of the other bolts that are used for block assembly, like I'm thinking here about rod bolts, which is a similar style to the factory head bolt, where it is an actual bolt with a head on it that has a stretch spec. Would that also be a single-use bolt, would you say, or would that be something that could be reused? If you're making it for stretch.
Right. In my opinion, that's a single-use bolt. Right? That's one of the most highly stressed fasteners in the entire engine. It's not worth the few dollars to risk, blowing up your 10K engine or whatever.
Right.
Replace the bolts.
Sure. Always use new fasteners on top of everything else that we've said so far. Well, Drew, thank you so much for coming down, chatting with us, and letting us your knowledge on these fasteners. It's something that is so simple, but it is so more detailed once you start to getting into it. But it's pretty interesting to kind of get a window into what is actually going on with these things. So really appreciate that. Thanks for coming down. Thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. If you got any more questions about this topic or anything else, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, until next time, stay tuned with Fly Range Tuning.